On January 26, 1788, the first fleet landed in Sydney Cove, Australia. And what landed in Sydney Cove were two sorts of people: soldiers and convicts. Now, the soldiers brought with themselves new wives looking to make a new life for themselves. But the convicts, well, they came because they'd been persecuted for the pettiest of crimes, such as stealing bread to stop themselves from starving. But what's important here is the nationality. You see, many of the convicts were Irish, and so that they were very loyal to the Catholic Church. The English, well, they were loyal to the Church of England. And that's posed a lot of problems here in the First Fleet. Because before the First Fleet, Ireland was invaded by England. Then Ireland was persecuted by England. And now here, Ireland is being shipped off from England, being persecuted once more to a new and foreign land called Australia. So it's fair to say that there is a deep hatred from the convicts towards the soldiers of the King George. What's apparent is what landed in Sydney Cove was a group of convicts that had a hatred towards authority, a deep hatred towards the monarchy, and a deep hatred towards the king. And throughout Australia's history, the heroes of Australian folklore have never been kings and queens or duke and duchesses of great morals. No, our heroes have been the likes of bushrangers such as Ned Kelly or Captain Starlight, poets such as Henry Lawson, horses such as Phar. You see, Australia's never really had to serve a king. We would regard thieves and horses are the heroes of our nations. You see, as a nation, we've shunned the idea of submitting to authority, let alone submitting to a king. But here, 228 years later, we're sitting here faced with Mark 11, and Jesus rides into Jerusalem on a donkey. Well, what does that even mean? Let's have a look. There's so much going on here in Mark chapter 11. Jesus here exercising his sovereignty by calling for the colt. That's a colt that hasn't been ridden. People are here putting branches on the ground for Jesus to walk over. Well, what does this even mean? You see, all of this imagery is of the procession of a king. The details of this story show us that the king is here and Jesus is the king. And the people should already know that because it's actually been written in the Bible before. In Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9 to 10, it says, "Rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. I will take away the chariots of Ephraim and the war horses of Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be broken. He will proclaim peace to the nations. His rule will extend from the sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth." The passage of Mark 11 and Zechariah show that Jesus is the long-awaited king, and he is now here to rule the earth. Now, in medieval times, when it was the king's procession, the whole city turned out. The subjects would lie confetti and flowers all over the ground. The king would come riding in on his massive war horse, to show off his grandeur and strength and majesty. The flags would be blowing as the horse would come down and the king would proudly ride down through his procession. And the crowds would cheer and roar. It was a great time. But now I've got a question for you. When Malcolm Turnbull, our Prime Minister, was sworn in as our leader of our nation, were we like that? Well, no, we weren't. There was not a hint of joy. And the reason for that is because we do not regard someone like that worthy to be our king. And in our heart, we don't like authority. In our rebellion towards God, we can't handle authority or the thought of someone unworthy being over us. Now, this morning I've got a question for you. Who is your king? Who is your king? Who is the king of your life? Because in our rebellion towards God, when we reject the authority of the king, we appoint ourselves as the king. We did it in the garden, and we do it today. And I've got to say, brothers, when we do that, we are doomed. When we did it in the garden, it brought death. When we do it today, it will bring death. When we appoint ourselves as the king, we distance ourselves from the one who is worthy to be king, and that king's name is Jesus Christ. He is worthy, he is loving, he gives life. Zechariah says he brings peace to all the nations, he rules all the nations, he's worthy to rule all the nations. Friends, won't you take Jesus to be the Lord of your life? Won't you commit your thoughts, your prayers, and your life to his word to guide you in life? Friends, choose the king. Choose the king who gives life. Choose Jesus. Let us pray.